Right, and today we're going to be looking again in the book of Matthew, and I'm going to look at a couple of different chapters, chapter 15 and 16, and I want to talk today about some of Jesus's miracles. So I'm switching back now, looking at Matthew 15, and this is where we see, going back to Matthew 14, I think. Hold on a minute here. Okay, yeah, so Matthew 14. In Matthew chapter 14, verse 13, this is where Jesus feeds 5,000 people. People had been following Jesus around for several days, and he had been preaching and healing the sick, and the disciples said, "Send the people away so that they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food." And Jesus replied, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." And then they said, "We only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish." And Jesus said, "Bring it to me." And he broke it. He prayed for it and broke the bread and fed 5,000 people. That was a miracle. And then after that was all done, he told the disciples to get in the boat and go across the lake. And he kind of hung back and had some alone time and prayer time. And then early in the morning, about 4 o'clock in the morning, Jesus walks across the lake on top of the water, and he starts passing the boat, and they're afraid of him, and he says, "Don't be afraid." They thought he was a ghost or something, because that'd be pretty weird to see somebody walking on water, right? I don't know what I would think if I saw that. But anyway, and this is where the story where Peter walks on water, and then Jesus gets back in the boat with Peter. The waves die down, and Jesus says, here, verse 32, "And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, 'Truly, you are the Son of God.'" So this was a really important time for the disciples, because they were seeing Jesus perform these miracles, and they were beginning to understand who he was. And here's where they said, "Truly, you are the Son of God." So they'd seen him feed 5,000 people. They'd seen him walk on water. And now they're saying, this really is the Son of God. So their faith was being encouraged by Jesus' miracles. And then on to the next chapter, chapter 15, is where we see that Jesus feeds 4,000 people. In a very similar story, the people don't have any food they're following it around. They don't have food. He takes a small amount of food and performs a miracle and feeds a lot of people. And then finally, in the next chapter, chapter 16, after seeing all these things, after being with Jesus day after day, and seeing him heal people, seeing him walk on water, seeing him feed 4,000 people, seeing him feed 5,000 people, then the disciples still don't quite understand who he is. Let me find the verse that I want to read now. So Jesus is talking about the Pharisees and Sadducees, and he's saying that you need to beware of them. And he used a confusing term. He said, "Beware the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees." What he was talking about was how yeast makes bread spread and grow and get bigger. Well, he was saying that the ideas that these Pharisees and Sadducees have about Jesus are not the correct ideas, but they can take root and they can grow and spread and they can cause problems. Well, the disciples didn't understand what he was saying. They thought he was talking about actual bread, and they said, "Yeah, shoot, we forgot the bread. Now what are we going to do?" And they kept talking about the bread. But then Jesus says, "You of little faith, why are you talking among yourselves about having no bread? Do you still not understand? Don't you remember the 5 loaves for the 5,000 and how many basketfuls you gathered? Or the 7 loaves for the 4,000 and how many basketfuls you gathered? How is it you don't understand that I was not talking to you about bread, but be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees?" Then they understood that he was not telling them to guard against the yeast used in bread, but against the teaching of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. So my whole point for talking about all this today is that even the disciples who were right there and they saw this with their own eyes, they saw miracles, they saw healing, they saw Jesus walking on water, they saw thousands of people fed through miracles, they still had a hard time understanding what Jesus was trying to say. And so what that means is that they were right there. Those men lived with him, literally could touch him and talk to him, and it was still hard for them. So it's okay if it's hard for us. It's okay if we don't really understand sometimes what God is trying to do or exactly what He's saying through His Word. It's okay to not understand, because even the 12 disciples who were right there sometimes just didn't get it. And a lot of preachers will go on and on about how the disciples, they'll belittle the disciples and talk about how, well, they were just dumb or they just didn't have the faith, and look at the problems that these guys had. We shouldn't do that, because they were right there. They were in the middle of it. So if they didn't get it, it's okay if we don't get it sometimes. But the key is we have to trust God. That even if we don't understand what He's doing, even if we don't understand the plan or what's going on or why things are happening, we still, if we trust God, it will be okay in the end. But it's okay to not understand while you're going through it. So that's the point of this message today. If we don't understand things sometimes, it's okay, but you still have to trust God. Love you.